Manchester this year is 200 years old. It's a 200-year anniversary of the University of Manchester, but it's also the 20th anniversary of graphene. 20 years sounds a long time for many people, but anyone who's done any history around advanced materials like carbon fiber, and if people know a lot about carbon fiber and composites, it's taken us many more years as in products and applications. Carbon fiber probably 60 years old today and still now finding its way from aerospace into other applications. So the overall challenge that we're looking to face through what we call Graphene at Manchester is that creation and acceleration of supply chain. And it's great to see people here from industry, from the UK, from abroad. I've noticed already from Turkey, well done last night for the football, better than England, but also UAE, as well as Brazil. So again, it's great to welcome people from the UK, but also our partners and companies from international. So Graphene is really built on two pillars. One is very much around the first building where we are today, the National Graphene Institute. Great to see people in this facility again, £61 million facility, funded through the UK Research Council and what was European funding to create really an accelerator that brings together the academics, material science, from chemistry, from engineering, very much around that academic co-location to accelerate through the low TRL. So the language of this building is the lower TRL activity. It's around not just graphene, but this family of advanced materials. And in the future, and you'll probably start hearing this, these layers of heterostructures, very much the pipeline of advanced materials. Behind me, we also have the Royce Advanced Materials Institute. So what you have here in Manchester is that ecosystem of academic mass, I'll call it, over 300-400 academics working on graphene and 2D materials in some form. But tomorrow is more about the translation. The Graphene Engineering and Innovation Centre talks less about materials, more around projects and how we accelerate those projects from conception into commercialization. And again, what you'll see hopefully over the 2 days is the developments that are taking place both in academia but also in industry. Bringing that all together, some of you may have seen this slide before, often industry talks a language of technology readiness level, as though it's a journey from a TRL of 1, bottom left of this chart, through to TRL 9. So that is a new idea, a new concept when you first discover it, TRL 1, 2, 3, through to a product or a technology in the marketplace, TRL 7, 8, 9. What hopefully you'll start to see is what we're building here in Manchester, and this is the model that we're starting to talk around. I'm going to see examples of over the next few days, is both that academic foundation, what's taking place in the NGI, what's taking place in physics, chemistry, material science, how that's then started to be brought together through the National Graphene Institute to accelerate that TRL, but also to address things like standards. And again, it's great to have our partners like National Physical Laboratory, we have the Health and Safety Executive here over the 2 days. So it's now really bringing in some of those other elements, not just the technology, that are really important if you're going to commercialize a new product into the market. The geek is then very much in that valley of death between TRLs 3 to 6, but it's also starting to address how we scale up, how we go through manufacturing readiness level. So those who are here tomorrow will see a very different facility, more about scale up, how we actually make things by the kilogram, by the meter squared, but how we accelerate them into the marketplace, de-risk them to take these new products and applications to market. And what you'll also see over the 2 days for people who are here, you'll see companies from the material supply chain, companies who make graphene by the gram, by the kilo, by the ton. People are now talking about scaling up to 100 ton. Many have gone through REACH registration. They've now got the ability to do that scale of the graphene at quantity, but also at a yield and also at a reducing price. So again, just to slay one myth over the 2 days, graphene is only for the expensive areas. Increasingly, what we're seeing today, and the theme of this conference, is that graphene can really support our decarbonisation, our sustainability agenda. I can now use less material, or I can use a recycled material, and I can upcycle that using graphene to get something that's potentially lower cost, but is more sustainable, but has no degradation in performance. And I think you'll see a number of case studies over the 2 days that support that statement. So we're working with supply chain, we're also working with application companies, and we're also working with end users. And again, you'll see examples of that over the few days. What you have here in Manchester is a large amount of know-how, academic, industrial know-how, but also a lot of capital. One of the challenges around commercialization is often that cost of capital. And again, you'll see through the facility like the NGI, and you'll see through the GEEK, you'll see the access to that capital as one of the key enablers that can accelerate graphene and 2D materials into products and applications. If you haven't signed up for a tour, make sure you see one of the organizers. The tours from here will be leaving from the sink, if you saw the sink, just outside here at the various times during the day. So please sign up for a tour if you haven't. And for those tomorrow, there will also be tours set up for the GEEK. And again, you can sign up at registration for a particular tour during the day. One of the key things around what we do is very much around outputs. So for me, what we're not doing is just science for science sake, but it's science that creates value, creates jobs, creates products, creates value, and that's probably more of the GEEK. But it also drives some of our scientific publications, citations, and things like Nobel Prizes. Again, all key metrics. Again, great to see some of our partners outside. You'll see more tomorrow. 56 now spin-out companies have been created in the last 10 years around graphene and 2D materials. And you'll see companies like AH Hydrogel growing sustainable food through to nanoplexus, not with graphene, but something called MXenes, Maxenes, and also a company called Molymem here today looking at filtration, again using lithium disulfide, not just graphene. So again, you'll start to see not just graphene, but this whole family of 2D materials that increasingly are moving very quick. Talk to the nanoplexus team, they've also already got plans to scale up Maxenes by the ton type of quantity. So some of these other new materials are also rapidly moving forward. So if graphene is not your cup of tea, there are other 2D materials that may meet the application. What we do as Graphene at Manchester, although we are graphene in our title, we're agnostic to the material. We want to make a material that works for your application. And that's a key message that you'll see over the next 2 days. It's not about technology push. It's very much around that market pull, understanding the problem, understanding the challenge, and adopting the right material to that application or that product to make it more competitive. So again, hopefully you'll see that over the next 2 days. So that's my final introduction. I hope you really value the 2 days for people who are here for 2 days. Today is very much around that pipeline. We've got some fantastic speakers here today who'll give you a flavor of some of the science that's being developed in the NGI, but also in the schools around the university. Tomorrow, as I say, is more about the application. There's a session with startups, there's a session with NPL. So it's really now looking at some of the enabling things that will really accelerate the commercialization of graphene and 2D materials. Hopefully you're able to stay tomorrow. I know there's a vote going on around something, and there's a chance to vote for something that may happen. But for me, it's really about accelerating what we're doing and seeing how we create value for your companies, for your individuals, and for University of Manchester. So I hope you find a useful time. I'm around all day, happy to answer any questions during the break. Please speak to myself or one of my colleagues in the purple lanyards or in the graphene tops. And again, there's opportunity if you want to be filmed to discuss with the film crew any reflections or any questions you have regarding the day.